This is the perfect way to start this video. Just me, hand on my face, laughing. Hi, I'm back. Well, sorry for not uploading all week. I was working. I have a job because I'm a contributing member of society sometimes. I was working all week. But Game Theory dropped. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was today or yesterday. 4 hours ago, MATPAT dropped a new Game Theory video, and we are going to watch it. Now I'm going to give my thoughts probably halfway through it. I have to switch in between this and OBS to make sure everything looks alright. Alright, I'm probably going to turn it down a little bit. Okay, let's get started. Let's see what this theory is about.
Okay, I'll leave you to it. See you on the flip side.
So, I will catch you on the flip side.
Hopefully.
I called it.
Right. Okay, already starting off strong. I just want to talk about the movie for a second. It was fantastic. Absolutely worth 8 years. People got mad about a scene in it because the robots build a fort. Spoiler. But then again, they're giant animatronics possessed by children, so of course they're going to act like kids sometimes. Okay. Side tangent over. We're going to continue the video.
I totally called it! 8 years ago, I told you that the purple guy was the phone guy, and now here we are. William Afton, our killer, is on a phone saying, "See on the flip side," just like phone guy did all those
That's
years
perfect.
ago. Finally,
That is a
I've
great.
been vindicated.
That's great. I love that. Okay,
Hello,
let's see what this actual
Internet.
theory is.
Welcome to Game
I'm
Theory,
MATPAT.
the show where every victory is bittersweet. You see, while I should be super happy that I just had one of my oldest FNAF theories confirmed, instead I'm feeling haunted by the unsolved mysteries of the past. Let me explain. At this point in the series, I feel like we have a really solid understanding of the
yeah.
story. We know the broad strokes, we know the general timeline, and the few big
That's
questions
a
that
purple
we've
withered
strung
Freddy
together are
leg.
starting to come into focus. Where's the placement of sister location? Well, the most recent games and books have hinted at its connection to the Fredbear era. What's the origins of Fazbear? Well, the books seem to be giving us more and more hints pointing at the early days of William and Henry's working relationship. What was the deal with FNAF 4? Literally, the final tale of the Pizzaplex all but spells it out for us. All of those are probably theories best saved for a later date, but today, I wanted to focus on something else. The clues that we've all completely missed. The times when this franchise has explicitly tried to tell us something, and we've utterly failed to pick up on what it's been laying down. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about me overanalyzing some minor detail of the game world. I'm talking about very clear puzzles that were very obviously set up by the game makers for us to solve that we've been unable to do anything with. And the reason I'm calling it out now is because they're starting to add up. In my estimation, there have been no less than 4 of these sorts of major puzzle moments. At least 3 of them are connected, and it's been going on for...
I don't know where he's going with this. Last few theories about Five Nights at Freddy's have been completely off the rails and made no sense at all to how he came to the conclusions he came to. Like, I can kind of see the Bonnie bro being Cassie's dad, which definitely isn't the case. But I can see why with the, at least the clothing color connections. And the fact that her dad likes Bonnie and that guy's wearing a Bonnie mask. But there's no way this, like... Because this guy, he'd be like 70, 80 years old at the point of security breach. At least, and that would, I don't think he's gonna be Cassie's father. There's probably not any way it's gonna be Cassie's father unless Stillwell takes notes. Because if they're taking notes, we're going down a dark path. Bad things are gonna happen.
For the better part of 6 years.
Let's keep this
now
going.
We're all done fangirling over Doug's apps.
I finally got my appetizers. Thanks, MATPAT.
Before Help Wanted 2
Forgot
drops
about
and adds
that video.
a whole layer of mysteries to solve, I wanted to take a minute to stop and see if now, finally, we were able to solve these mysteries once and for all.
Let's figure these mysteries out, MATPAT. They better be good.
Able to put them together. The first one of these is
Better
also
not be
the most
weird.
recent, so it should come as no surprise to see me bringing it up here. The tally marks codes that we found hidden throughout
Yeah,
FNAF
tally
3.
marks.
For
I
those of
remember
you who
that.
have no idea what I'm talking about. In the newest game, right before you reach Bonnie Bowl, middle, there's a corridor with a number of real doors, as well as several blocked off AR doors. If you walk through one of the real-life doors, you'll find a room full of baby plushies. This is already a bit weird because
Oh yeah,
the game makes
right.
it
I remember
the
this.
fact that baby should not be here. Specifically with the AR plush baby toy where the description reads, quote, "What's she doing here?" The answer, we suspect, is that the Pizzaplex, sister location, the FNAF 6 location, and the FNAF 4 house are all practically built on top of each other, or at the very least exist as one connected series of buildings. We go into the basement of the Pizzaplex only to find the FNAF 6 location. In a secret ending of Ruin, we see a version of sister location Scooper deactivating the Mimic. And in one of the final Tales of the Pizzaplex stories, we read about how the FNAF 4 house is
Rory in
connected to
that
Circus Baby's Entertainment and
yeah,
Rentals.
Rory's
So really,
house
question,
where Afton
are here.
where Afton is experimenting on this poor boy with nightmare gas, causing him to hallucinate and not be able to leave the house. That's crazy.
Because they
Yeah.
all share a connected history. A history that is gradually being
Yes.
excavated layer by layer underneath the Pizzaplex. Anyway, in this room, the dolls laugh at you, and then, when you turn around, they disappear. Nothing all that surprising. But what is surprising is what remains in the left-hand corner, right where the plushies sat. You'll find a chair turned to face the corner, and a sequence of tally marks carved into the wall. And these aren't just random markings.
That was
either. They're
Rory,
specifically
'cause he was stuck in
groups of
there.
2s, 4s, and 5s. And they're grouped in such a way to suggest words, or at the very least, separate letters. Now, that alone would be weird, but an even bigger, clearer display of tally marks appears again about an hour later into the game. After completing Bonnie Bowl, you enter Bonnie's green room behind the bowling alley. Not only does this area show us the special relationship that existed between Freddy and Bonnie, if you put on the Vanny mask on the wall,
Yeah, all
over
I'm
top of
saying
the
is
floating
if people
staff bodies,
don't
another code, much
want
larger
to
and much
admit
more
that it's
organized than the one
canon,
that we just saw before. And
they're
once again,
definitely
all the tally marks here
a
are
canon
specifically grouped
relationship,
twos,
at least
fours,
behind
and
the scenes.
fives. No ones or threes in sight. They are obviously meant to be connected. They're obviously trying to tell us something.
Yes.
We are obviously not getting the message. So what can we do?
Yeah, we're a little
the
bit
first
stupid,
answer is
MATPAT. You need
try
to
a
remember that.
substitution cipher. Tally up the numbers and swap in the appropriate letters. Notice though that the tally marks are weirdly spaced out, which led a bunch of us to believe that we're supposed to be using those spaces to define each letter, adding up the numbers that aren't separated by the space. So the top line there is going to be 4, then a space, then 544, which would add up to 13. It's a pretty darn self-explanatory system here. Doing that for the whole thing gives us a code of 4, 13, 6, 19, 4, 17, 7, 4, 16, 10, 8, 7, 27, 19, which, if you do a standard number to letter conversion, gives you this. DM, F, S, D, Q, G, yeah. You know what, I'm just gonna leave it there. Clearly, this isn't working. It's just
No, this is
letters.
Shadow
Also
Freddy's real
notice that
name.
there's
This is
a
what we're figuring
27
out.
in that number mix, which should have been our first red flag, considering that, you know, there's only 26 letters in the English alphabet. But Reddit user
that's not true.
Girl Lunara wasn't deterred. Because the alphabet doesn't have 27 letters, they instead took it a step further and tried the whole thing as a shift cipher. A shift cipher is similar to a Caesar cipher, but instead of the numbers converting into standard letters like A1, B2, C3, etc., you instead mix up or shift the order in some way. So now, for instance, A is 7, B is 8, C is 9, and so on. Normally in a Caesar cipher, the alphabet then loops back around, so if A was 7, Z would then equal 6, but in a shift cipher, that doesn't happen. The numbers just carry on as is. So in this case, if A equals 7, then Z would equal 32. For this particular instance, T-Girl Lunara put A equaling 4, which meant that 27 was now X, and gave us the entire code of Ajka Pan-damaged XP. Not a lot of lore significance with that one, but I did want to continue down that path. So we tried hundreds of different shift and Caesar ciphers. They all came out as absolute gibberish. We also tried just unscrambling the words. Maybe there was another arrangement in there that would give us a more cohesive answer, but yet again, more gibberish. Another solution was presented by user Smartfella Fartsmella, great name there, who also tried adding up the numbers, but this time they didn't do it by adding up the numbers.
That wasn't even that funny. Why am I laughing at that? That wasn't even that good. That's an amazing username.
Instead, the numbers in each column. Again, notice the odd spacing of all these tally marks. It can't be a coincidence, right? The first column contains a 4 and a 5, so it can't be 9. The second is just the 2. Next up is 5.
Never mind.
So on and so
Actually,
forth
I was
down
gonna
the
say
line.
maybe
Ending
each
up
like
with this code.
space
9, 2,
is a
5, 9, 13, 7,
is a letter.
10, 8, 21,
Like
16, 20,
each
14, 17,
individual
8,
group
2, 5, 4,
of tally
3.
marks
This
is
felt
its own
promising
letter,
to me, because
but
unlike
then
last time,
again,
we only had numbers
that would
fell
be
within
more
the
gibberish.
alphabet. So converting all of these numbers into letters, we got ourselves the following: I be imgejupt bed. We once again went through with all the classic Caesar ciphers and word unscramblers and all that stuff, but once again wound up with nothing. Back to the drawing board for the third time. An anonymous poster uploaded this onto Imager, and the same point was later brought to my attention by Reddit user NoRate. Basically, what they pointed out was that the tally marks in the corner of Baby's room make a 5x5 grid. A grid that, when rotated or flipped, can map perfectly onto the tally code that we see on the wall of Bonnie Bowl. NoRate actually took this information and pointed out the fact that the main grid arrangement seems to line up with something known as a Polybius cipher, which uses a 5x5 grid of letters to scramble or unscramble codes. Basically, a number code like 53 would mean that you go along the top to 5 and then down 3, and boom, that right there is the letter for your phrase. And while it certainly
like how we figured out the
first, sadly, the method also
actually that's not even how we figured out the Cassidy name. We used the page numbers to I mean, technically, I guess.
Entire alphabet in here, not just a few random tally marks. The same held true for another famous 5x5 grid cipher, the Playfair cipher, which requires a code word to use. What could that code word be? Who knows? Did it feel like we were actually starting to make some level of progress here? Yes, absolutely. But did any of it yield us any results?
No.
But here's where things get really interesting. This isn't the first time FNAF has stumped us with tally marks.
That's true.
Backwards 6 years, my friends, to the release of the Freddy Fazbear Security Logbook, home to my two oldest and greatest nemeses, the Foxy Grid and the Dabbing Chica.
Forgot about that
For those of you who
picture.
haven't been a part of the community for that long, let me quickly tell you that this seemingly innocent children's workbook was pivotal for decoding FNAF 4, for giving us the name of Cassidy, for frustrating us to no end with seemingly unsolvable number puzzles. The most notorious of them all was the Foxy Grid, a numeric grid with a hidden alphabet written into its squares, a grid that we still haven't figured out the use of to this very day. You ever read Moby Dick? At least are you familiar with the story about how Captain Ahab's obsessed with killing this giant
Big
white whale?
yeah.
This right here, this Foxy Grid, that is my white whale. This thing haunts my nightmares. This grid keeps me up at night, which honestly are two very contradictory effects of this one grid on my sleep habits, but that is how infuriating this thing is. I am convinced that this grid will eventually give us the name of the crying child.
I don't think it will.
I don't know how yet. Anyway, one of the other clues
Put
that
the
never
alphabet
really
in
got a
it.
proper
Figure
use
it
out
out.
of this thing were a series of tally marks that were found throughout the book. The fact that they're in red pen tells us that they were written by Mike. Other than that, we don't really know anything about what they were trying to say to us, and so they've lingered on in the back of my brain for over half a decade. Why am I bringing them up now? Well, I wondered if there was a possible connection
that would
between
make
these two sets
sense.
of tally marks. You know, besides them just being tally marks. Guess what I found? Groups of 4s and 5s only. Yet again, we find ourselves with a collection of tally marks carrying over the same specific sets of numbers. Are they connected, or is this just a random coincidence?
Probably not
Really
connected,
sure, but the fact that
but
tally marks keep
I
getting
can
brought
see
up and
how you
also
think
keep
that.
stumping us, that's just a wee bit infuriating. And yet the games still aren't done with this puzzle. You see, the tally marks are connected to yet another part of the franchise, Security Breach. Back during my playthrough of the original Security Breach, this room in the daycare section really caught my attention.
I'm noticing that 2, 4, and 5 are different, which is weird. As someone who has dealt with a lot of codes and ARPs and things, that feels suspicious. I agree.
2, 4, and 5.
Again.
2 years
Okay.
before Ruin, some element, some essence of this tally code was still kicking around. But now the numbers were being matched with colors. And so Reddit user Comfortable Map 7594 took those tally marks and used these colors to create a sort of paint by numbers graphic, which I absolutely adore as a possible solution, though I absolutely hate the fact that it didn't seem to produce anything. Let me know down in the comments. Do you see anything here? Because to me, all I'm seeing here is me getting depressed. So maybe we just take a break from trying to decode these things and instead take a minute to look at the world around these tallies to get a sense of who might be speaking here. As I mentioned, in the security logbook, we know it's Mike, based on the red pen and the signature at the front of the book. But what about in Ruin? Well, in the baby plush room, we have, obviously enough, baby. Not that shocking. But what's especially important to note here is that they're not all baby. See, half
Yeah,
of the
some of them are
plushies
scrap
normal
baby.
baby, and the other half are scrap baby. What's the big difference? Well, besides the obvious scrap metal plates on their bodies, there's one thing that alternates depending on the version. Something that's been important to baby since the very beginning.
Oh, the eyes.
Eye color. The regular baby plushies have blue eyes, while scrap baby has green eyes, showing
Elizabeth,
the two
yeah.
sides of baby before and after
Baby and
Elizabeth's
Elizabeth,
death and
yeah.
possession. But Reddit user Dylan Hippyjink took it one step further. They noticed that the eyes of the baby and scrap baby plushies were scratched out, leaving just the blue right eye from baby and the green left eye for scrap baby. That right there, that is a compelling detail,
Tiger
because
Rock.
it directly
Okay,
matches
yeah.
up to the evil entity that we've been battling against throughout the entire game,
The Mimic.
See, In the story Tiger Rock, the Mimic AI program takes the form of the digital entity Tiger Rock, a tiger animatronic with a green left eye and
We
a
better
blue
see
right
Tiger
eye.
Rock in
Is
Help
this
Wanted 2.
confirming
If we
for us
don't
that the
see him
Mimic
in
AI
there,
and
I'm gonna
Baby
be a little
are
bit
somehow
upset.
one and the same? Or
Like, I'm
maybe
still
that the
gonna
Mimic
play
has
the
two
game, but,
souls
like,
or
come
entities
on.
that it learned from, just like how Baby in the books is two children in one, Elizabeth and Charlie. Not really sure, but that right there, that is a massive revelation that feels super important to solving the mystery. Or at least it did, until I dug a bit more and found out that the Scrap Baby plushies also sometimes have their left eye missing. It is still a very cool, compelling connection that I'm not willing to fully discount yet. It's just not as consistent as I would have liked as far as evidence goes. The chair, meanwhile, looks like a disciplinary measure. A bad child that was put into timeout, forced to face into a corner and scratching away at the wall to count the hours or days out of boredom. Since this is a room full of ghostly baby plushies, it stands to reason that the punished child here could have been Elizabeth. Obviously not physically here in this room of the Pizzaplex, but with the scene recreating a recurring moment from her past in some ghostly, spectral way. We know Afton wasn't really the greatest dad to her. Maybe this right here is a glimpse of his parenting style. As for the tally marks in Bonnie's green room,
It seems like Afton's a terrible father in every continuity, because they were the non-canon comics by Pinky Pills, who was an official artist for Five Nights at Freddy's. William was a weirdo in that. He also kept locking Mike in a shed just for being himself. Then again, Mike did kind of kill his other son, but still not justified. The movie, it's inferred that he's a bad father. I mean, then again, he also, stabs his daughter. And then in the books, he literally he pimp slaps Elizabeth. He goes, "Blah!" He's like, "I don't care about your drawing." That was so stupid. Okay, let's unpause the video because I'm not funny.
the font is the same, so they were likely carved by the same person. But honestly, that's where the similarities end. These marks appear in AR land, as opposed to Baby's, which are in the real world. This implies that whoever made Bonnie's marks either had the Vanny mask at some point, or is connected to the digital network that's running the Pizzaplex. Bonnie's marks are also higher up on the wall, as opposed to Baby's, which are at floor level, easily reachable by a small child. So then, why these two rooms specifically? Well, a few things come to mind. If Baby is, in fact, connected in some way to the Mimic, and or the neural network that runs the Pizzaplex, we can guess that Bonnie is too. When we deactivate the wet floor bots around the Pizzaplex, we also end up deactivating Bonnie. So that connection into the wider Pizzaplex interface may be important here.
Since people, I've only ever seen one person talk about the actual damages on Bonnie's body. So basically, this person, oh, hold on, I'm gonna pause recording. I gotta go find this person's name. Alright, figured it out. It was not real name, not at all. They said, they looked at the damages on Bonnie and made an amazing connection to Shattered Monty, because Shattered Monty's got, you can, I hope my cursor's on the screen. If my cursor's not on the screen, this is gonna be embarrassing. The side of Bonnie's face dented in, big mess on Bonnie's stomach, along with like claw marks. And then you can't really tell from this angle, but the top half of him and the bottom half of him are slightly disconnected, like more than would be necessary. And Shattered Monty, messed up side of his face, messed up torso, bottom half disconnected. Meaning Bonnie and Monty in Monty Gall, when Bonnie was seen going there, this blew my mind hearing this, and it made so much sense when I thought about it. When they said Bonnie and Monty were on the Monty Golf catwalks, and then there was an altercation. There's claw marks on his chest, so Monty probably hit Bonnie, and then Bonnie fell off the catwalk, and then what happened to Monty happened to Bonnie. And now he's here in Bonnie Bowl like this. That's amazing theory. It makes so much sense. You know what? I was just gonna link this channel and this video in the description, but I'm gonna link that person's channel in the description too, because they make great content. Anyway, on with the video.
Bonnie, so that connection into the wider Pizzaplex interface may be important here. We also know that both Baby and Bonnie are quote-unquote missing from the Pizzaplex. Baby isn't supposed to be here, according to that AR description, and Bonnie was decommissioned from the complex. Again, they're obviously loose threads, but in a puzzle with no clear answer that somehow connects two very random, historically unrelated characters like Bonnie and Baby, every small detail here is absolutely worth considering. But that's more than enough talk about tally marks. Let me remind you of yet another numerical code that was just blatantly given to us by the devs that us as a community have been largely unable to solve. Remember those Mylar balloons that I was just freaking out about in Superstar Daycare? Well, they have themselves yet another appearance right here, on the 8th hole of Security Breach's Monty Gator Golf arcade cabinet. On this Balloon Boy themed hole, we get this.
3192. That's suspicious.
A handful of numbered balloons. In reality, the number sequence is actually a lot longer. 6369553192. The fact that these are in Monty Gator Golf immediately made me wonder whether this code was the score they had to get in the game, except there are 10 numbers and only 9 holes. But when has simple math ever stopped the internet? User 00core00 tried a number of different combinations to see whether they could activate anything. Sadly, nothing. Then Ruin released with a new Monty Gator Golf arcade cabinet, and so people like Yusuf0808 tried again using this exact same code and still wound up with nothing. Here's the thing though, both of these games have been data mined to heck and back. If this code was meant to unlock something inside of Monty Gator Golf, we'd have heard about it already, which leads me to believe that it's something actually outside of the game. Much like I suspected with the tally marks, it's not about activating some hidden ending, it's about giving us a code, a cipher, a phrase that'll tell us something about the wider world. We just haven't figured out how to use it yet. I've tried converting the letters, ciphers, you name it, I just keep coming up empty-handed. One of our writers even suggested trying hex codes to see if there might be something there. At first it looked positive. The last 6 numbers actually produce a purple that matches the Aftons that we know and love so much, but it's not an exact match, nor does the first half numbers amount to anything meaningful. Maybe the fact that
it doesn't match that. You can't say it matches if it's not the same color. That doesn't make sense.
Puzzle, or maybe I'm just desperately looking for answers where there are no answers to be
like,
had.
yeah, purple is associated with William Afton, but it's not the same purple.
Online, in Discords, forums, Reddit posts, what have you. But for this last one, nothing. Or at least practically nothing. I could find only 2 posts total, which is exactly why I wanted to raise some awareness about it here, because to me, this seems like a massive clue that largely got overlooked during the wave of reveals that happened throughout Ruin. Early on in the game, we have a chance to revisit the daycare attendant's room. This room is nothing new to a FNAF theorist. It was the one that we were able to unlock in Security Breach by photographing random characters throughout the game world. Inside of it, we were able to find the glitchy Balloon World arcade cabinet, a lost relic to a seemingly incomplete path inside the game. So when the room showed up again in Ruin, I wanted to pay extra attention. On the surface, the room seems largely the same, just a bit messier than before. Boxes of stuff, clothing hanging from the wall, some post-it notes scattered around, but then by putting on the Vanny mask, everything resets to normal. The room basically goes back to the way that it was, cleaner, more organized. Nothing all that noteworthy, until of course you start talking about the notes. Those are worthy. All of a sudden on a blank wall, we get ourselves a 3x3 grid of post-it notes. What is it with Steel Wool games and post-it note lore? I mean, if I had a nickel for every time Steel Wool used post-it...
I got pause recording. Hold on. I'm back. I was needed by my family. Let's continue.
Notes to hint at lore, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
I didn't hear the beginning of the joke.
And post-it note lore. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time Steel Wool used post-it notes to hint at lore, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
That is weird that it's happened. They've done that twice.
One that says groceries with butter written 3 times. There's a collection of dots, a scribble, footprints, hearts and pizza, lightning bolt, sun and hill, stars and a microphone, and a selection of candy. As usual, my first thought was to jump into a cipher. Immediately, you see how some of these post-its can relate to numbers. We have 2 feet, 4 stars, 7 dots, 3 butters, 3 lightning bolts. Felt like a really solid place to start, but obviously it wasn't going to be perfect. We have a pizza post-it, but are we counting the 2 slices of pizza, the 4 hearts, or both? What about that squiggle? What's that stand for? Nothing? How about the hill in the sun? Is this meant to be FNAF 6's graveyard hill, so maybe we're counting gravestones? Or is this more likely counting the number of rays coming off the sun? Overall, converting the post-its to numbers wasn't really given the clean cleanest solutions, but it did feel like a step in the right direction. From there, when you look up
I'm gonna
how to
pull out
solve
my phone
3x3
so I can
ciphers,
DoorDash
the number one
something.
solution that pops up is the Hill cipher. Now, when it comes to codes, a Hill
It's gonna
cipher
be
is
here
pretty darn
by the
complex,
time
but overall, the key to
this is
deciphering one is a matrix.
far
a table
after
of
I'm done
numbers. And if
recording.
you're using the English alphabet with its 26 letters, you're gonna
Who
need
texted me?
yourself a 3x3 matrix, or let's just say a 3x3 grid of post-it notes. The numbers in the matrix represent the shifts that you're gonna have to apply to each letter of the alphabet. To encode a message using a Hill
DoorDash.
cipher, you first convert the message into numbers.
Yes.
You can do this by assigning each letter of the alphabet a number from 0 to 25. For instance, A would be 0, B would be 1, and so on. Next, you multiply each letter of the message by the corresponding matrix. For example, if the first letter of your message is A, you would multiply it by the first row of the matrix. If the second letter of the message is B, you would multiply it by the second row of the matrix.
Yes.
The result is a new number which you can then convert back into a letter, giving you the encoded message. To decode, you just do the same in reverse. For instance, if I
Do I
had this
want
message,
McDonald's
hello, how are you?
or
With this matrix,
Chick-fil-A?
321110201, my encoded message would look a little something like this. I'm not even gonna
Same
try.
delivery
Like I said,
fee,
it's a pretty
either way.
complex way of encoding something, but let's be honest with ourselves, when has FNAF ever not been complex? And after the wall code from Security Breach got broken in a day, Steel Wool was probably looking for something that's a bit harder, some with a bit more lasting power.
Okay,
So really,
I'm going
the Hill
to
cipher seems to
flip
fit
a
this new wall
coin
code nicely. There's just one problem. What
on my
exactly are
phone.
we decoding? Sure,
Flip
we have ourselves a
a
rough
coin.
matrix, but where's the number or letter sequence that we're trying to put through it? The balloons?
Okay.
The tally marks? I ran them both through a few variations of my own matrix. 3
Okay.
for butters, 7 for dots, 2 for footprints, 4 hearts, etc.,
Heads,
etc. But
Chick-fil-A,
ultimately, I wound up with
tails,
nothing to show for the
McDonald's.
whole thing. Again, it felt like we were getting close to a methodology, but I was just missing some crucial
Alright.
step in the process. So I tried a
McDonald's it is.
completely different approach. Rather than ciphers, did this collection of images mean something to me? The candy to me looked very similar to the drawings that we saw in the original post-it room from Security Breach. Same goes with the pizzas. The lightning bolts are designed similarly to the charging stations found throughout the Pizzaplex, as well as the bolt of lightning on Glamrock Freddy's chest. Notice the flat tops on the lightning bolts, which makes them distinctly different from other lightning bolts that we've seen across the series, like the controlled shock button from Sister Location.
Oh yeah,
The
because that one
microphone
wasn't
stars
flat topped,
reminds me
that
of
one
Freddy
was
and the gang.
pointy
This
the
group
whole
of 7
time.
dots, certainly vague, but the number 7 has shown up before in both FNAF VR and the Post-it Room of Security Breach. Usually it represents the 7 victims: 5 missing children, Charlie, and the crying child. 7 dots, 7 graves. You've got the hill in the sun, which is reminiscent of the hill during the Afton and
Yeah, they're only. Wouldn't it be 8 then? Because Elizabeth too? Yeah, the 5 missing kids: Gabriel, Susie, Fritz, Jeremy, and then Cassidy. And then crying child, Elizabeth, and Charlie. Whatever, I'm moving on. We'll just keep going.
Princess Quest endings, and the butters were obvious references to Sister Location's exotic butters.
Exotic butters.
Overall, all the post-its seem to relate in at least a small tangential way to Michael Afton. Man, he really is becoming like his dad, always coming back to our theories. Reddit user Pikmin King X posted about these 9 drawings and drew all of them back to 2 very important games: Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator. 2 games where we for sure play as Michael Afton. First, you got the candy that we spoke about. Well, in Pizzeria Simulator, candy's all over the place. In advertisements from Lally's Lollies, gumball machines we can buy for the franchise, but the most important one of all, of course, is Candy Cadet, who actually winds up back in ruin. The lightning bolts also relate
That was a
back to
W
FNAF
for
6
Candy
as they're
Cadet
identical to
fans.
the power-up
He
that we
deserved to
got
be
in the
there.
Fruity Maze minigame. Or, like
I
I
love
said, they
that
can't
guy.
relate to the lightning bolt on Glamrock Freddy's chest. An animatronic who many have theorized, myself included, has the soul of Michael Afton inside it. The stars and
It would make
microphone call back
sense
to the
if
4 main
Freddy was
Rockstar
possessed.
animatronics.
I don't
Freddy,
want him to be
Wolf,
possessed by
Microphone,
Michael Afton,
Bonnie, Chica, and
but it would
Foxy.
make sense
Sunny
because
Hill,
Gregory
well, that's
kind of
iconic
looks like his
FNAF
little
6
brother.
Gravestone ending,
So,
with all 5 of the missing children,
I
plus
could see
Charlie put to
why
rest on the
people think
hill.
that.
Along with that, he'd be familiar with the 7th victim, his younger
Yeah.
brother, the crying child, so if that's what these 7 dots
Yeah,
represent,
but there's
he'll
also
understand that
an 8th
symbolism.
dead
Mike
person.
also has a strong love of pizza, as in the security logbook, he literally says it's the only reason to apply for the job, with hearts on the other pages that look similar to the ones that are on the post-its over here. Then there's the footprints. In true classic FNAF theory fashion, Pikmin King X points out that these are 3-toed footprints, and they're almost almost identical to the ones that we
Oh,
see in
yeah.
the other FNAF
Yeah, I see
6
that.
Freddy game, Midnight Motorist, where there are 2 three-toed footprints outside
I
of
forgot I was
window,
ordering
where
food
Michael's
for a
either the
second.
escapee who broke out of that window or the one sitting on the couch watching TV. The only thing unaccounted for here are the squiggly lines, but to me, that could just represent Ennard, or the Tangle, or whatever robot spaghetti
get
this
him
franchise
double.
wants to throw at the wall at this point. Could this mean that Michael might in fact be alive? That he's living inside the Pizzaplex trying to finish the job that he started? Maybe that's the entire reason the sister location room exists in the Pizzaplex in the first place. Maybe it's him talking to the recreation of his younger brother. Maybe he learned the language of the mimic that his father used to communicate with the monster that killed his sister, like we predicted in a previous theory. All signs here point to Michael, or not. Let me be perfectly clear. This is broad speculation based on a piece of evidence that has clearly not been solved yet. And honestly, that's why I need your help. You've seen all the theory threads that I've been pulling, all the ciphers and interpretations that I've tried here, and we're still none the wiser. There are solutions out there for all of these puzzles. I am almost sure of that. But I need the collective hive mind of the FNAF community behind me to pitch out some
I don't like
solutions.
how that brain
The theorists
looked.
of Reddit I called out today have done an amazing job getting the ball rolling, and I do truly believe that with a bit more time and a bit more focus, together we can solve these mysteries. Last time I did a theory like this, it was 5 years ago. But 48 hours later, you all had collectively discovered the name Cassidy.
I want to talk about Ultimate Custom Night Fredbear. It makes me a little bit angry that it's a slightly altered version of Freddy, and every single like 3D model I see of it has the FNAF 1 Freddy hands, when in reality it would definitely have like the Spring Bonnie hands with the 5 fingers, because Springlock suit Fredbear is completely unrelated to the video, but I had to bring it up.
Hidden inside the security
we did
logbook.
bring.
And now
Yeah.
it is one of the most solid, concrete, important pieces of information that we've ever had for the lore of this franchise. Let's try to do that again here. One or all of these puzzles are going to lead to some sort of massive revelation.
I
So
want
I'm leaving a link down
a
below to the
6-piece
Game Theorist
McNugget.
subreddit, where I'd encourage you to write up your theories. I'm also dropping in some
Tangy
links to
barbecue
decoding
sauce.
websites that'll help make the grind a bit easier, especially for all those grid-based puzzles. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on all of this for the next couple of weeks. It'd be cool if we could manage to solve one of these things before the year's
And then I'm
end.
gonna get
Who knows? Maybe help
the
one
big
a
old
tool
box
drop and solve everything
with
for us,
13
leaving the board
cookies in it.
crystal clear with no further questions and no ciphers required. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm sure that's absolutely gonna happen with this franchise. Until that day comes, friends,
MATPAT, you never
it's
know.
all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching.
I don't know what the theory was. Oh, he was just asking for help, wasn't he? Alright, I'm gonna leave a like on that. I'm going to end the recording now. This was fun. I might do more reaction type videos, despite the fact that I barely ever have anything to say. Yeah, goodbye. Have a good day. Hope you guys doing well. If you enjoyed, like the video and subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, don't just subscribe. If you didn't like the video, don't leave a like, leave a dislike, because if you didn't like it, simple, just don't put a like. Show that you didn't like it. Easy. They'll let me know that this isn't the type of stuff you guys want to see, and then I won't do it again. Yeah, goodbye. See ya.